Hello everybody and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here, and on the second day of Listmas in July, we bring you something that is gonna get you wet. No, the wettest water rides I've ever experienced. Come on. Thanks to Theme Park Checklist for sponsoring this video, available now on the App Store. Alright, you guys know these rides, you love them too. This collection of raft rides as well as log flumes gets you to cool down at least a little bit on those ridiculously hot summer days across the United States. Now, I've been on a total of around 20 water attractions, and for this top 10 in specific, I've kind of averaged out on the wet scale for each ride, depending on how many effects are on during winter in comparison to summer, or on average how wet you'll get on this attraction. Now, of course, at the start of our list, you'll probably get a light misting, or you'll be able to dry off in about 15 to 20 minutes anyway. But once we get down to number one, you're going to be literally leaving puddles in your seats of all the rides you ride throughout your entire experience at the park that day. And trust me, that is no exaggeration. So let's head to number 10. We're starting this list off with a raft attraction that was recently redone in the past couple of seasons, and this is Calico River Rapids at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. This raft attraction has probably gotten the most raft rides out of me, at least, and easily has the most videos tied to it on my channel, considering I did full construction updates for the attraction. But while this ride doesn't get you absolutely soaked on most days, there are definitely some days in summer where all the effects are on, and you'll definitely get at least a little bit drenched. Now, I'll be honest, your chance of that happening is pretty low, but I can guarantee, at least on those warmer days, at least one person in your party is gonna be drenched from head to toe. Add in all that fun of trying to avoid the water with a bunch of great theming and a cool storyline. Calico River Rapids is easily one of the best rides in the park, and you should definitely make sure to ride it, even if it's cold out, at Knott's Berry Farm. And of course, for number 9, we're actually going to stay at Knott's Berry Farm for the Timber Mountain Log Ride. This legendary log ride attraction opened back in 1969 and is arguably the most iconic attraction at the entire park. Now, this ride might not get you absolutely soaked like some of the rides later on in this list, but you will definitely get at least a little bit wetter than Calico River Rapids, especially on that secret drop in the middle of the ride's duration. Sure, that final drop is not exactly the most wet, but that second drop and some of the extra effects will be sure to at least get a mild dousing, no matter what season you ride it in. And heck, even in the queue line, you might get a little bit of mist from some of the beautiful and scenic waterfalls around the queue. Even if you don't like getting wet, though, this ride is perfect for all ages and is a must-hit at Knott's Berry Farm. Let's head over to number 8. In this spot, we actually are heading all the way to southern Texas to Six Flags Fiesta, Texas for their raft attraction, Gully Washer. Now, I've been on this attraction multiple times, even some days riding it multiple times through. This ride definitely is another step up from the two attractions we've talked about thus far in terms of wetness, due to a giant waterfall at the end of the ride, 1, and 2, a ridiculously long ride layout that provides rapids throughout the entire course. Now, something I should mention, don't wear white on this attraction, especially during Halloween and Fright Fest, because at Fright Fest, they dye the water red, which is honestly a really cool addition to this fun ride at the back of the park. But if you're wearing white, your shirt will be pink, at least for the rest of the day. Regardless, though, you're definitely going to get at least a mild dousing on Gully Washer, no matter where you sit, and it's great for those humid and hot Texan summer days. Next up on this list, we're actually going to be heading back to Orange County, California, and more specifically Anaheim for Grizzly River Run at Disney California Adventure Park. This being the only unchanged attraction since the opening of the park 20 years ago, has quite a lot of surprises throughout its ride. Large drops, some pretty intense rapids, and even a couple of burst pipes on the lift hill that are sure to at least spray you a little bit. I will say though, in winter you won't get absolutely soaked on this ride, but when it comes to summer, it is a whole different story, especially during the finale, that are sure to get you absolutely soaked no matter where you're sitting. I would have put this up a little higher on this list though if all of those effects were on during the winter season, but during winter they turn off most of those extra effects that really do a majority of the soaking. All right, let's head to number 6. For this, we're heading all the way down south to Orlando, Florida for SeaWorld Orlando's own Infinity Falls. This relatively new Intamin raft ride offered at the time of opening the largest drop on a raft ride in the world. I mean, hence the name Infinity Falls, of course. And while that main drop isn't the most wet part of the ride, it still packs quite the thrill, especially after an elevated lift hill and a rapid barrage of rapids right before it. There are plenty of moments on this ride, though, where you'll be spinning like crazy and hitting those small and tiny drops that are sure to get you the most wet. While I only rode this once during summer in Florida, there didn't seem to be many effects that could have been turned off, but after my one ride, I was definitely very wet and pretty cold considering the sun just went down. From one coast back to the west, we head back to Orange County for Anaheim's own Disneyland Park for Splash Mountain. I will admit though, if you are on the back of this ride, you're most likely not gonna get that wet. But if you're sitting at the front, it does not matter what time of year it is, and it does not matter what time of day. There are 3 drops that are going to absolutely soak you, especially that second drop in the middle of the ride. Seriously though, if you are in the front 3 or 4 rows, you are going to get absolutely soaked with that secret drop in the center of the attraction that is in complete darkness. And while you can't exactly see, you can definitely feel the tsunami wave that will go over your head and drench you all the way down to your toes. I will say though, unlike rapid rides, the only parts where you really get wet are on the drops themselves, but don't get me wrong, all those drops get you absolutely soaked, and it's a great and perfect ride even for those summer days in Southern California. Number 4 on this list is going to take us a little bit down south in Southern California to SeaWorld San Diego for Shipwreck Rapids, the rapid ride at the park. This attraction, even in winter, is bound to get you pretty freaking wet. From its tropical waterfalls that will get you wetter than a sea turtle in the ocean, and plenty of crazy rapids to add on to that. You'll even see the front side of water on your ride through, and a couple of shipwrecks, of course, with many extra moments of being sprayed by other guests potentially on busier days, or even just other effects spritzing you with a bunch of water. This ride has a lot of surprises in store, especially when you're least expecting it, and I can easily say it is the wettest ride at SeaWorld. We've made it finally to the top 3. Now we're actually going to head to somewhere you probably didn't expect, and that is Branson, Missouri, for the newest rapids ride on this entire list, Mystic River Falls. This attraction was something that we bought ponchos for, to make sure we didn't get too wet on a 60-degree day. But let me tell you, the ponchos did little to nothing. We got absolutely drenched throughout the entirety of this ride, and that was before we even got to that crazy lift hill into the big, and I mean big, final drop. While I do recommend a poncho on this ride though, there's really not a point to spending the extra little bits of cash because you are going to be soaked, and I mean soaked thoroughly. But I will say this is easily one of the best rapids rides I've ever been on for that wetness factor, but also a lot of that theming and rock work, and even the extreme thrill in comparison to other rides of its type. It's a fantastic ride, and you should definitely check it out even on those colder days. I mean, heck, we rode it in 60 degrees, and it was still insane. Easily one of the rides I will always get on whenever I end up in Missouri. Ooh, we've made it to the top 2. Wonder what could be up that high. Well, at number 2, we have Roaring Rapids at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Kind of a sleeper hit, at least in my opinion. This ride, I've seen way too many phones literally stop working. The amount of water that this ride somehow ends up propelling into the air is just insane. And I 100% recommend getting a locker for this attraction specifically. Because the amount of times I've seen someone's bag that has all of their really expensive belongings get absolutely soaked beyond belief is just way too high a number for the 3 rides that I've ever had on this attraction. Seriously though, even without the waterfalls turned on, this ride somehow manages to soak everyone for hours on end. And believe me, I've left puddles on Apocalypse's trains 4 hours after riding just because I was that soaked. So I will say, especially on those 100+ degree days in Valencia, it is a great freaking ride to get on, even if it has over an hour-long wait. Ooh, number 1, I wonder what it could be. Well, number 1 is, of course, Popeye and Bluto's Bill Drat Barges at Universal's Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. This ride is just on another level, straight up. I rode it when most of the effects weren't even on, and I still was the most wet I have ever been on any ride possible. It literally feels like my good friend Dylan from Theme Park Obsession always says, like you jump into a pool with all of your clothes on. I seriously don't understand how that ride is completely okay, because you literally are going to get soaked no matter what you do. Even if you put on a poncho, you could literally cover yourself in 5 ponchos even, but you will still get absolutely pelted with as much water as humanly possible. Now, what you can see from off-ride is nothing in comparison to what happens on the ride itself too, so that adds in for a lot of crazy surprises that I wish I was able to film. My first reaction, although I probably would have had to do a lot of bleeping. Nonetheless, though, it was a heck of a lot of fun, and we rode it twice in a row, and I feel bad for afterwards because the Velocicoaster ops, literally 2 to 3 hours later, had a bunch of puddles on their trains just from Popeyes teaching us Florida water rides don't mess around. So there you have it, my top 10 wettest water rides I have ever personally experienced. What's the wettest water ride you've ever had? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below. And before I go, I wanted to mention, of course, a huge thanks to our sponsor for Listmas in July, Theme Park Checklist. Make sure to check out all of those lists down in the description below. And if you haven't yet, make sure to check out the brand new Parks Bros pin that you can check out also in the description down below. So with that, thank you all so much for watching and tuning in. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe because we're only 2 days into Listmas. We've got another 4 days of awesome lists to go. But with all that said, we'll see you on the next ride.